the kind of person who loves a list. If I can make a list for anything, I will. At the start of a new week, there's a list in my diary of all the things that I need or want to do. A fair number of things get crossed off. Some get transferred to the list for the following week if they didn't get done. And a very small number stay on the list for so long that in the end I can cross them off anyway because they become out of date and I don't need to worry about them anymore. I have to admit that sometimes I take that approach to some emails and letters too. On the occasions that I write a shopping list, I usually manage to get everything that I need. But if I don't have a list, then invariably I end up forgetting something, which confirms for me that lists are a good thing. Not only do they help you to get organised, and they take the pressure off trying to remember everything in your head, but you can get a great sense of achievement when you start crossing things off. This isn't to be underestimated. There are even times when I do something and then add it to my list afterwards, just for the pleasure of crossing it off straight away. I've been thinking about lists a lot in the last week, partly because the song 10,000 Reasons by Matt Redman was going round and round in my head. There's a line in the song that goes, "For all your goodness I will keep on singing, 10,000 reasons for my heart to find." Over the week, I've been imagining a list containing 10,000 things that I would like to thank God for. I wonder how long it would take me to write such a list, and how hard would I find it to come up with 10,000 different things? What would it look like on paper? How many pages would it fill? If I started to come up with just one thing every day from now on, it would take me over 27 years to get to 3,000 to 10,000 items on my list. It certainly made me think about gratitude and about taking things for granted, and about trying to spot the small, unnoticed things that occur in everyday life. I was thinking about reasons to be thankful again as I was filling out the census for our household over the weekend. A roof over my head, a family to share it with, education, a passport, a computer to use to send off our information, a postal service that brought me the reminder, and I could go on. It occurs to me that it would really slow me down if I thought about everything I do or have in the same kind of way. But then that would be no bad thing. Surely it must be better to live more slowly but more mindfully, more appreciatively, than to race through life only noticing a fraction of what is there. Thinking of lists, I was reminded of a programme that was on television a number of years ago called My Name is Earl. Without going into a lot of detail, Earl comes to a point where he realises that he hasn't lived a good life and he wants to make amends. Admittedly, he discovers that when he does a good deed, something good happens to him, and when he does something bad, it has a negative impact on his life. So his motivation isn't altogether altruistic. But that aside, he writes a list of all the bad things that he's done and all the people that he has hurt, and in each episode he finds one of the people on his list so that he can apologise and make up for his behaviour in the past. I know it's only a television programme, but I do admire Earl's bravery in pursuing this. I know that there are things that I've done and people that I've hurt in the past, and the thought of making a list and tracking them down is the last thing on my mind. I don't want a list like that. I don't know how you would live with a list like that. You would certainly feel compelled to act upon it. And this has got me thinking about mercy and grace. Grace is being given something that you don't deserve. So God's love for me is a gift of grace because I can't possibly earn it. God doesn't operate on a merit basis. There's nothing I can do that would make God love me any more or any less than God already does. And the same thing applies to absolutely everyone in the world. That's grace. Mercy is being spared the punishment that we do deserve. And God's grace and mercy go hand in hand. God could quite easily keep a list of all the things that I've done and use it to make my life a misery. But God chooses to act in love to me instead. And actually, the more I come to understand about God's love, the more those things that I need to deal with come to mind. The unkindnesses and the selfishnesses and the bitternesses of thought, word and action. And then I know that I do need to act upon them, but it's always in the context of knowing that God loves and cares for me, and it's not driven by a fear of punishment. God's mercy and grace together give me the strength and courage to know what I need to change and how I can make amends to the people I've hurt. And it's still not easy, but they also give me the motivation to carry on. So it's comforting and humbling to think that God could keep a naughty list for me, but chooses not to. And now I'm imagining, what if God kept a different kind of list on each of us? What if God kept a list of all the things God particularly loves about us? Could there be 10,000 things on such a list for me? Wouldn't it be amazing to think that I am so special to God that God keeps a list of all the things about me that God finds a blessing? How many of those things would I be aware of, and how many of them would be little things that I take no notice of at all? And if I'm imagining such a list for me, then I need to imagine such a list for everyone else I meet. And if that's the case, how does that change the way that I treat people? Can I still be rude to that person in the shop if I imagine that God has a lengthy list of things that God loves about them? Can I still ignore that person in need? Can I still keep quiet when someone's being mistreated? Can I still go on in my own little world, unwilling to open my eyes to the realities and difficulties that others face? How can I forget to love someone if I know that God's list of good things about them must be at least as long as God's list on me? And this brings me back to where I began. It sounds like a mammoth task, but I think I want to get going on my list of 10,000 reasons to give thanks to God. Slowing down, taking notice, paying more attention to others, and learning to be more patient and loving, these are all good things that will come from compiling that list of blessings. I know it will be a lifetime's work. And perhaps I need to brace myself, because I'm sure that this is one list I know I can be adding to for the rest of my life without ever crossing anything off.